Welcome to the Nathan Adelson Hospice Show. I'm Susan Westbrook, and today I have with me Kathryn Bonello, who is the Director of Development, and Katie Weyandt, who is the Director of Palliative Care, both with Nathan Adelson Hospice. Actually, all three of us are with Nathan Adelson Hospice. So, Katie, maybe we can start off by having you tell us about hospice and what it is and what it provides for people.
Sure. Hospice is about quality of life. It is about, it's a multidisciplinary approach to comfort and that long quality of life for the patient that has a terminal diagnosis. So anyone that is suffering from something, it doesn't necessarily have to be a cancer-related diagnosis, but congestive heart failure or chronic obstructive pulmonary disease, COPD, or a renal disease even could qualify for hospice services.
Okay.
So it's a multidisciplinary approach where what that means is that it's not just physician, it's a physician-based, registered nurse, social work, spiritual care, and then they have team members such as CNAs, volunteers, and even registered dietitians and such that all comprehensively care for the patient and the family. It's not even just about the patient, it's about the family as well. And we go for, we focus on the quality of the life that they have left and care, dignity of the patient and the family.
Okay. And how is it paid for? Can you talk about that briefly?
So typically it's paid for by Medicare. Some patients have Medicaid and it's covered by Medicaid as well.
Okay.
And even some health insurance covers the cost.
And I think it's a great thing to talk about Medicare. It's 100% funded by Medicare. I think a lot of people don't know it. They're afraid. They say, oh, I don't really want to talk about hospice yet because I don't know what's going to cost me. But Medicare pays for that 100%. So I think that's something that a lot of people don't know about.
Okay. And there are a lot of misconceptions about hospice, aren't there? People might think that it's all about maybe giving up instead of seeking curative treatment, that it's really about end-of-life care. I think you really met somebody who had a different take on that.
I had a great story. I was lucky enough to meet a gentleman who was on our service. He had called and wanted to give us $500 a month. And so that's how the conversation started. And I was excited to talk with him. So I called him. I made an appointment at his home. I sat down at his kitchen table and I said, so, what is it that makes you want to give back to Nathan Adelson Hospice? What is it? And he said something to me that was so moving in the fact that I didn't think of it that way. And I think a lot of people don't think about it. So misconceptions, we talk about, well, hospice is a place you go to die. It is a death sentence. I don't want to call hospice because I don't want to give up. And so I was meeting with this gentleman and he said to me, he said, Kathryn, hospice saved my life. And I asked him, kind of shocked me. I said, what do you mean that hospice saved your life? And he said, I was sitting in that chair, and he pointed at his recliner, and he said, I couldn't even get out of my chair. I couldn't move. I had oxygen. I felt like I was wasting away, and I'd given up hope. So I called my doctor, and I told him, this is my situation. Let's call hospice. So in his mind, he thought hospice is giving up. So he'd given up. He called his doctor. The doctor said, okay, let's call hospice. So he said, once I spoke to hospice and said, yep, I'd like to sign on with hospice, he said a team of angels descended at his home. And I thought that was such a cool thing. He said, all these people cared about me. They came in, they made sure that I felt good. They made sure that my home was situated, my bathroom had everything I needed, my bed was accurate. They cared about me. And I not only got a CNA, a physician came to visit me, I had nursing care. He said I had a volunteer. And I had this volunteer and she's my friend. We would go to Home Depot together, we went grocery shopping together, but really hospice gave him his life back. He was able to get out of the chair and he was able to feel good. He said, they gave me certain medication that made me feel good. I was depressed and I felt like I was locked in this home and I just wanted to give up. So I called hospice as a way to give up. And I thought it was awesome that he said a team of angels descended on him. So his take and his perception of hospice was the opposite of what it really was for him. And I think that's the biggest thing that people need to understand, that hospice is not giving up. It's a level of care at that time in your life that you need it. Just like when we go to the cardiologist because you have heart pain, or just like we go to the orthopedic when you have back or joint pain, you go to those physicians for help. You achieve and try to get that level of care because you need it. Hospice is the same thing. It's nothing to be afraid of or scared of. It's a level of care that we will all need at one point in our lives.
And I think we hear that a lot, that people feel better when they come onto hospice. And I think there's studies and there's research shows that if people get onto hospice, they actually do live longer in some cases. And we sometimes have people who, what we call graduating from hospice, where they really come onto service, and because we take care of the kind of the whole
holistic approach, changing of their medications, tweaking, and having that skilled nursing visit to really manage their care. A lot of times they actually do get better, and they do graduate coming off service, and you know, they're excited because wow, you know.
And we call them graduates. We're excited for them too. I think you're exactly right. And statistics do say, there's heart statistics specifically for congestive heart failure, that patients that get on hospice sooner do live longer. It's a level of care. It's a good thing. It's not something to be fearful of.
And it's not about giving up. It's about shifting focus. You know, that's what it is. And you know, looking for you know, if you, even though you have this life-limiting illness, how do you want to live out your life? And I like to tell families when I go out to meet with them that, you know, it's not the hospice staff that's coming in to dictate how your end of, you know, life will look. We are like characters in a play, and you know, they have to tell us how they want the story to end, and so we're there, you know, to play that out for them. How do they want it to look?
Yeah, a guide.
And I guess that's an important thing too, is we talk about the members of the team being the physicians and the nurses and the CNAs, but it's also the family members, isn't it? I mean, they play a key role, and we do what we can to support them as well.
Yeah, it's definitely patient and family centered. It's not us saying, you need to do this, you need to do that. It's, you know, how do you want it to be? How do you want it to look and such?
And I don't know if we actually talked about the fact that what is the diagnosis to be referred to hospice, because that does sort of need a diagnosis.
Well, it's a life-limiting illness, so what Medicare says is that, you know, 6 months or less if the disease follows its normal course. So obviously, you know, none of us know when that final day would be. So there's no, you know, limit necessarily. So if you are reaching your 6-month limit that you've been on hospice, or that your loved one has been on hospice, and you know, you don't need to think that, wow, okay, now I've lost all of my benefit and there's nothing else. Because as long as the patient still meets the criteria that Medicare has set for hospice, then the patient would remain on the hospice services.
Okay, well, we have to take a short break, and then we'll be right back to talk about more.
At Nathan Adelson Hospice, our goal is treating the whole person, body, mind, and soul, the way you define it. When medical science can no longer add days to your life, it is the goal of Nathan Adelson Hospice to add life to your days. Ask your doctor for a referral to Nathan Adelson Hospice, because hospices, they're not all the same.
Welcome back to the Nathan Adelson Hospice Show. Again, I have with me Kathryn Bonello and Katie Weyandt from Nathan Adelson Hospice, and we've been talking about hospice care and how it's really patient-centered, and that the families and the patient really get to decide on the care that they want to receive. So let's talk a little bit more about what kinds of needs and wishes that the patients have that we would follow.
Yeah, you know, I have a great story. And it's a personal experience for my family, and that my grandmother was on Nathan Adelson Hospice services, and she was given the opportunity, just like we discussed, with really deciding how she wanted to live out the rest of her life. So, setting goals and really being a part of the plan of care for her own care. And one of the things that she communicated to her hospice nurse was that when she was at the end of life, she wanted to remain at home during that time and not necessarily go into the inpatient unit that Nathan Adelson has. She just felt like, staying at home was what she wanted. And so the nurse, had that understanding with her and put that as part of the plan of care. And so when it came closer to my grandmother's end of life, my family that was there at the time taking care of my grandmother, they felt like, okay, she needs more support and we can't do this, and so she needs to go to the inpatient unit.
Mm-hmm.
And so
scared.
yeah, they were scared. They weren't quite sure if they could handle and do everything that needed to be done and such. And so the hospice nurse, she gently reminded them of what my grandmother's wishes were, and she supported my grandmother and she supported my family by saying, look, you're not in this alone, and we are going to provide you with additional assistance. So sending out the nurse more frequently and sending out the CNA every day to come out and assist with the care, and just really being there to support the family, to ensure that my grandmother's wishes were followed out.
Mm-hmm.
And so, when it came to end of life, she got her wish, and it was just so, I was so thankful to hear that she was able to have her needs met as well as her wishes followed.
Right. And I think that's something that Nathan Adelson Hospice talks about a lot, is people really thinking about their wishes and what their wishes are before they're faced with a health crisis. Mm-hmm. One of the ways that people can do that with or without hospice is by looking at an advance directive. Do you want to tell us about that?
Absolutely. So advance directives are so important, just like with your grandmother. This is your chance, my chance, and your chance to tell everyone that's involved in our care, right? It's a team effort. Your physicians, your family members, everyone that's around you. Listen, me as Kathryn, this is how I want to be taken care of. This is what I want. I want to feel this way. I want music. I want to be taken care of till this point in my life. I want to stay at home, or I don't. Mm-hmm. I want certain people around me. They're called advance directives, and we recommend everyone have one. Fill it out. Give it to your primary care provider. Have one on you. You can go to Living Will Lockbox, and you can upload it online or fax it to the state, and they can put it in their database. So if you ever go to the emergency room or to the hospital of any sort, they can look up this information. And it's super important. So we as Nathan Adelson have advanced directives. We also talk about 5 wishes, which is really the same thing. It's you as the patient dictating how you want to be treated. That you will get to a point in your life where you can no longer speak for yourself. Right. We all will. We're all living organisms. I mean, the path will eventually get there. So we have to be prepared. This is your chance to do it. So advanced directives are something we push, 5 wishes, for that purpose.
Yeah, because unfortunately we hear stories about people who have not made those wishes, and then families end up fighting each other and not speaking for years, all because they didn't know what their family member or what their loved one really wanted at the end, and family members are left kind of in chaos.
And it's scary, just like you said with your family, people panic. When you don't know what to do, you panic. So if you, or as the patient, can give your family those tools to say, this is exactly what I want, the likelihood of them feeling panicked and making rash decisions because they don't know what to do is going to minimize. And we see it all the time. Families do get torn apart at this time of life. And I personally had that experience. I don't know about anyone else, but you think you've got it. We work in hospice. We understand. And and still things will happen.
Yeah, that's true. Okay, so back to Nathan Adelson Hospice, and what are some of the differentiators? Why is, maybe Kathryn, you can talk to us about, what is it about Nathan Adelson Hospice that makes it special?
So Nathan Adelson Hospice, there's a few things, right? We employ our own physicians, our own providers, our nurse practitioners, and that's important for many ways because we can ingrain our culture in those individuals, and they're educated in hospice and palliative care. They understand what's going on with a patient. We educate our nursing and clinical staff and provide incentives for them to become certified in hospice and palliative care, which is a cost to us, but we invest in that. We have 2 inpatient units, which is different than anyone else. 99% or 95% of our patients receive care at home, but if and when they do need to come to the inpatients, we have one on the north side and then one here at Swenson. So we have 2 locations. We have an in-house pharmacy. We're a nonprofit organization, and I think that's one of the biggest things that people need to understand, that we're not for-profit and we are nonprofit. And with that comes lots of abilities to provide services that other hospices aren't able to.
Right, okay. Yeah, and like having a volunteer board of directors that all also provide a lot of their time at Nathan Adelson Hospice. So, well, let's talk about some of the things that we can do as a nonprofit, like some of those wonderful programs and services and the foundation who make that possible. Let's talk about a little bit about that.
So we have many programs, and being a nonprofit gives us the ability to partner with our community. So we have many philanthropic donors who support us, and without their support, we wouldn't be able to provide the services that we do. So every year, our biggest need for philanthropic donations is for our uncompensated care program. And what that is we do not turn anyone away. Anyone who needs hospice care, we will provide for it. If they don't have Medicare, if they don't have insurance, or if they have insurance and it doesn't provide care for everything, we make sure that we will take care of those individuals. So every year we spend $1.3 and last year $1.5 million in supporting this program. So that's our biggest need.
Right.
We work with our donors on that. We have a Bonnie Schreck Complementary Therapies program, which is a really cool program. We do massage therapy, aromatherapy, pet therapy, which is one of my favorites. We have a pet peace of mind program. And these programs add a level of support. Just like my friend who was on our service said, a team descended on him. We have a volunteer department, over 300 volunteers that can go to the family's home or go to the group home or the assisted living, wherever that person calls their home. They can do grocery shopping with them. They can go and just sit with them and talk with them. When you're at a stage in your life when situations have changed, you want to talk about things. You want to reminisce about stories. And our volunteer program is amazing. We do different outreach things with them. We have a camp, which we've had for over 20 years, Camp Aaron, and we take care of about 50 kids every year. They go to this camp, and this is their opportunity to really gain tools and resources to deal with their grief. So this is about 50 kids go, and they have the ability, they're kids who have lost someone or in the grieving stage.
And it might be their only opportunity for grief support that is available to them at no charge. We have so many great programs and services. We have to go for a short break, and then we'll come back and talk a little bit more about them.
At Nathan Adelson Hospice, our goal is treating the whole person, body, mind, and soul, the way you define it. When medical science can no longer add days to your life, it is the goal of Nathan Adelson Hospice to add life to your days. Ask your doctor for a referral to Nathan Adelson Hospice, because hospices, they're not all the same.
Welcome back to the Nathan Adelson Hospice Show. We've been talking about all the great programs and services that Nathan Adelson Hospice really provides to wrap around those patients and families. I don't think we finished talking about all of them, so
I'll wrap
get
it
back
up.
to
Right. I'll tell you a couple more that I think are really important for people to know. Is we have our Families in Need program, and we also have a meal delivery program. And why those are so important is when you have a patient at home, you're caring for a mother or a child or a grandmother, lots of situations can happen. Money can be tight. Things cannot be as easily as accessible as they were before when you had two healthy people.
Right.
So we provide meals to families. We provide meals to people who just can't get up and make a full meal, so they can just get up and heat something.
Yeah.
Our Families in Need program as well. So sometimes our patients are struggling not only to eat and provide meals, but to pay their electricity bill or their water bill, or in certain circumstances we help with paying rent to keep that patient at home.
Right.
So that's the most important thing. The patient's care at that time in their life is the most important thing. So we are able to offer programs like this that others aren't. So we feel blessed and honored to have that.
We've seen, I mean, I've personally gone out and helped make those meal deliveries, and we sometimes have patients who are living alone.
Yeah.
And so we're taking care of them, and sometimes the caregivers are, you know, if it's an elderly couple, we had an elderly couple on service once, and they were both frail, and they both ended up being on service, and so one of the things that we could do was provide them food in the home so that they could stay home for a longer period of time. So,
and there's great stories. I mean,
yeah.
just one the other day, had a dream to go to a Michael Jackson event,
Right,
and we were
right.
able to get him tickets in a limo, and there's certain things that we're
Yeah.
able to do for patients to kind of make some of those wishes come true.
yeah.
I had an experience where patient needed a volunteer, and it was a family member of mine that, you know, was a little nervous about volunteering out in the home, was very comfortable with volunteering for the hospice, you know, in the office, but oh, I'm going to see, you know, patient, what? That's a little scary to me and such. And, you know, I was able to make my family member feel comfortable with that, and because I saw that it was a really good fit with the volunteer, and you know, what the volunteer needed and such, and it was such an awesome experience because, you know, they built this bond. My family member would go out and like read the newspaper and such with the patient. His toilet broke one time, so my family member
Volunteers end up doing a lot.
you know, and went out and replaced the little flapper
Yeah.
thing in the toilet, and really built this bond together that I had no idea that great of a
Yeah.
bond would build. And they were, you know, like best buds almost.
That's
and
nice.
you know, so it can benefit not just the patient, but
Right.
even the person that volunteers as well. I mean,
Right.
they see and they communicate.
We have
what a great
hundreds
experience.
of volunteers who are providing their time on patient care, working with patients and helping families, and certainly people can go on to our website at www.nah.org and find out about the volunteer opportunities, and that is something that is greatly needed. Another program that Nathan Adelson Hospice has established is the Elaine Wynn Palliative Care Program.
Yes.
Katie, can you tell us a little bit about that program, maybe how it differs from hospice and palliative care differ, and what our palliative care program is in the community?
Absolutely. So I'm really excited about the Elaine Wynn Palliative Care Program. So what palliative care is and how it differs from hospice is, you know, both focus on increasing the quality of life for the patient and the family. However, you can still receive palliative care while you are seeking aggressive treatment.
Yes.
You know, whereas in hospice, it's more of that comfort, you know, and you know, the patient wouldn't necessarily be going out and still, you know, getting those aggressive treatments and such like you would be able to with palliative care.
Okay.
So, for example, patients that, it's not just the oncology patients that are seeking chemo or radiation. We could have a congestive heart failure patient who's still going and having appointments at the cardiologist and that sort of thing, or a COPD patient who's still seeing their pulmonologist. And you know, that it's for those patients that, you know, aren't quite ready for hospice. They are near, you know, the final stages of life, but they're not quite there yet. So it's like a bridge program, if you will. So they have this life-limiting illness, however, they are not, you know, in their end of life stage. And so what palliative care does is that palliative care comes in and adds an extra layer of care to what they're already being provided from their primary care physician or from their specialty physician. The patient could be receiving home health and have palliative care as an additional layer.
Right.
And what we focus on with palliative care is medication reconciliation, obviously quality of life. So what does that look like? We create a plan of care with the patient and family to figure out what that quality of life looks like. Advanced directives, that sort of thing.
And so a lot of our programs right now, well, our the Allaying with Palliative Care program, we're doing a lot of consultative work in the hospitals.
Yes.
Can you talk a little bit about how that?
And that's how it started with the Elaine Wynn grant that we received. Though we have been able to now expand into the home care setting. So that gives us the opportunity of really following those patients that we have been doing consultations for in the hospital. However, now we can see them at home and follow them and continue to provide this higher level of care, this added layer, while they are still seeking aggressive treatment, so that they can be as comfortable as possible while they are still receiving curative treatments.
And I think the great part about that is through the Elaine Wynn grant, so we just received $1 million from Elaine Wynn, which is making this program possible. So, the payment model with palliative care is we go into the hospital setting and we visit a patient and we bill for a provider bill, and that's great. But once you go home and have this layer of palliative care, that is a philanthropic donation. So it's not a burden upon patients. It is something that Elaine Wynn and we hope other donors join, because it's such a needed program. It's that bridge program. It's getting people and patients comfortable with the type of care that we provide, so that when we do broach the conversation of hospice, it's not scary. It's not that they don't know what's going to happen. They understand it's the same people. It's just bridging and kind of pushing them towards the continuum of care. So it's such an important program, and it is only possible because of this donation, and we hope to grow that fund as well.
Okay, well, we're almost out of time, so why don't you tell us, if people are interested in, maybe they think they're eligible for hospice or palliative care, what should people do?
Call us. People say, well, should I wait and talk to my physician about it? Of course, do whatever is most comfortable for you, but call us. We can help facilitate that conversation. Maybe you just don't know what we're going to offer. It's us. These are the people that you'd be speaking to. We all have a passion for taking care of that patient. So ask questions. Ask as many questions as you want. You can go to our website, but I recommend you call us.
Okay, give the number.
702-733-0320. 702-733-0320. And call us. We'd love to answer any questions you have.
Okay. Well, thank you for joining us.